Up next, Authentically Detroit welcomes COTS Detroit CEO Cheryl P. Johnson and EMPath CEO Kim Janey to discuss their new approach to helping families achieve economic mobility. But first, this week's hot takes from Authentically Detroit and Politico. Artist says she was assaulted this Saturday at Paramita Sound, and Michigan Democrats bash Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib for Palestinian comments. Keep it locked. Authentically Detroit starts after these messages.
Hey, it's Stephen Henderson from WDET and Bridge Detroit. If you love listening to Orlando and Donna's incisive interviews and conversations on the Authentically Detroit podcast, I hope you'll also listen to the podcast I host, Detroit Today from WDET on Detroit's NPR station. Detroit Today is a daily podcast where I talk with community leaders, elected officials, and residents of Detroit, the region, and the state about politics and the values that animate our communities. Listen to Detroit Today every day on your favorite podcast app.
Hey, y'all, it's Orlando. We just want to let you know that the views and opinions expressed during this podcast episode are those of the co-hosts and guests and not their sponsoring institutions. Now, let's start the show. Hello, Detroit and the world. Welcome to another episode of Authentically Detroit, broadcasting live from the Cass Corridor at the WDET studios. We are a content partner to BridgeDetroit.com. I'm Orlando Bailey.
And I'm Donna Givens-Davidson.
Thank you for listening in and supporting our efforts to build a platform of authentic voices for real people in the city of Detroit. We want you to like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on all platforms. Donna and I are joined in person by the CEO of COTS Detroit, Cheryl P. Johnson, and EMPath's CEO, Kim Janey, is with us via phone to discuss their new practice, mobility mentoring, which uses a research-backed, trauma-informed approach to helping families achieve economic mobility. Cheryl and Kim, welcome to Authentically Detroit.
Yay! That's what I'm going to say. I was excited about the music. I'm just sitting there bouncing.
Exactly. We're ashamed to say that it's both of your first times here, so welcome. We are excited to have both of you. How is this blessed day finding you? Kim, on the phone, how you doing?
Wonderful, wonderful. I am bringing greetings from the great city of Boston. I'm so excited to be here and to be here with Cheryl. And like Cheryl, I was really enjoying your theme music. Brought me right back to my childhood and watching the Jeffersons. And one thing in those lyrics, though, that I think is important, particularly as we think about the topic for today, is what they talked about getting a piece of the pie. There's plenty of pie for all of us. So I just want us to start with that framework that there is enough for all of us. And we need to move out of the scarcity mindset that we're often in when we think about income inequality and wealth in this country, or what we do about those things. We can often get stuck in that scarcity mindset.
Thank you, Mayor Kim. How are you, Cheryl? How you doing?
You see why I partner with Kim.
Listen, so, you know, the journalist in me has a follow-up, and then I want to ask more questions to give more comment, but we'll get there. We'll get there because we could talk about that the whole show.
I love that, and like-minded people.
Yes.
You know, we're definitely that. It's a good day.
Yes.
I'm glad to be here. Just came off of a great trip in Memphis.
Yeah.
And I'm still kind of basking.
Did you see anything interesting in Memphis?
Yeah. The Peabody Hotel, the whole duck thing is interesting.
It's really a thing.
Yeah. I'd like to have another show on that. To talk about that and the fact that just 3 blocks over, people are not doing well, but ducks are living in this hotel, right?
Wow. Is it Duck Hotel? I'm sorry?
It's called the Peabody. It's a whole historic, beautiful hotel, but they have this...
But it's for ducks?
No. It's for people.
Oh,
Just look it up.
But
The
there
Peabody
is,
Hotel.
but there is this duck march.
Yes, every day.
In the morning and in the evening, where the ducks
That's
come
right.
in and out of the lobby into the big fountain inside of the
on
lobby.
a red carpet.
On a red carpet.
And they live in the hotel.
Yeah,
Don't
they
forget
live,
that.
They live there.
Yeah. The
And,
ducks.
you know, much like Detroit, you can walk in Memphis and feel like you're in the place, and you walk a block and it's like, okay, I'm in a whole other kind of place, right?
Yeah.
That isn't as resourced as where I just came from. And so I appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you, Cheryl.
Yeah.
Donna, how you feeling?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. Luna was baptized yesterday by her grandfather, and it was absolutely amazing. I was so proud of her. But, you know, so we're sitting here, and I knew she was going to be baptized, and when she dunked her, I broke out in tears and I started crying. I'm like, what's wrong with me? You know, 'cause
Nothing.
I don't cry. You know, I always.
But you cry now. You've
I
been
know.
crying a lot lately.
I know,
so you
right?
cry now.
And so I was just sitting there in tears, and her other grandmother was laughing at me. She says, "Yeah, you know, you're not supposed to cry." I'm like, I know that. And then we had, lunch afterwards with Maverick and Luna and Sarah and Camille. It was just really a wonderful time. And then the weekend before, we've established one day a month we're going to have Grandparents' Day. We have all the grands together. So we took them all out for Halloween.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Kylan, Luna, and Maverick, and Luna and Maverick spent the night. So it's been a good grandparent kind of past couple of weeks, and children are so healing because they're beautiful people, right? And children see the world through these eyes that I wish adults could see them through, because there's so much love there. And somehow as we age, we start seeing things differently, and we start having the kind of love that just brings everybody together. But at least as a grandmother, children are unifying. I get to send them back home, and that's always good, too. It's all done now. Time to go home. And then, Kevin and I are by ourselves, but it was good.
Good,
it was really
good. Congratulations to baby Luna. That's so exciting on getting baptized. I love that.
She'll be 6 on December.
She wanted to do that
But
herself?
She wanted to do that herself. So apparently she came out of her Sunday school classroom, and she told him, I want to be baptized. And so when I think about her, she was like this tiny little person, and everybody else was adults, and there's my little tiny granddaughter standing there, and they, she had to say these words, and she was afraid to speak for a little while, but this was all her.
Yeah, and her
100%.
How amazing is that?
Grandfather is the pastor of Macedonia Baptist Church.
Wow, okay.
Which is actually a beautiful church.
Yeah.
I'd never been there. I was like, "Ooh, this is nice." So I was, and he actually, he's a good pastor. I'd never heard him. He's relatively new. He stepped into that role recently, but he's a lifetime member of the church, and he was on the ministry team, but recently stepped up to become pastor. So we really enjoyed it, and I'm really proud of my baby girl.
Yeah, wow, that's great news. All right, we got to get into some hot takes, whereas we're not going to be talking about a lot of great news today. Artist says she was assaulted this Saturday at Paramita Sound. Multi-hyphenate artist Morgan, known professionally as Super Cool Wicked, was assaulted this Saturday at Paramita, according to her Instagram posts and Paramita's Instagram posts. Sound after confronting fellow artist Alex Omar Smith, commonly known as Omar S. According to Morgan, she confronted Omar over more than $10,000 in royalties and sales owed to her. Omar, she says, responded with profanity before physically assaulting her. Omar is accused of smashing a glass on her head and pulling her hair while 3 men attempted to pull him off of her. Morgan thanked Dre, the owner of Paramita Sound, and others for protecting her during this event. Paramita Sound has also released a statement condemning Omar's actions and assuring the community that he is no longer welcome in the space. Omar has released a separate statement claiming that he is actually the victim. Authentically Detroit has reached out to the Detroit Police Department, and the police department, as of today, have not been able to locate a police report from Saturday. Donna, what say you?
Well, violence against women is always very disturbing. It's always very triggering, having been a survivor of violence against women myself, and also having survived the advent of having the person who was violent against me blame me and say that I started it, which was an obvious lie. And so my heart goes out to her and any woman who is subject to that kind of violence. If men don't learn anything else, keep your hands off of women. Keep bottles off of their heads. Let's stop doing it. I was looking through Facebook, and a friend of mine said that she has 2 friends. No, she's on her timeline. She saw that 2 women who were adults had been killed violently over the past couple of weeks. That's hurtful. You know, anytime you hear about any woman being killed for any reason, it's hurtful. Any person, right? Because all life is significant. But when you hear about women dying because of what a man decided to do to their bodies, it's hurtful that our society doesn't do a better job of protecting us.
You know, the thing that I'll say in response to this, and, you know, I talked to a friend of Morgan's in my quest trying to reach Morgan today. And, you know, we ended the conversation with saying Black men need to step up and condemn this as well, right? Because, you know, the perpetuators of a lot of this violence is Black men against Black women.
Yes.
And I think we have to be honest about that, and we have to name that. And Black men who are not perpetuating this kind of violence, like myself, have to stand and speak out against it.
I mean, the data is that Black women are more likely to be killed by their domestic partners than any other women. And so you're right. I mean, but we have so much division between Black men and women right now. There's a lot of anger that you see played out in social media, where you see men attacking women and women attacking men, and then people helping to perpetuate all of that. We need a healing because if we're fighting each other, neither side can win. Our community needs all of us to be strong and loved and well-resourced. And when we're pitted against each other, I compared it the other day to Willie Lynch, right? Competing, dividing light between, dark and light. But now we're dividing men and women in such a way you can destroy a people if you have the men and women at each other. Men, hold your brothers accountable. Yes. Mothers, hold your sons accountable. And women, support your sisters, because all too often a woman will defend the man. We
are not each other's adversaries.
I watched Megan Thee Stallion's Cobra video, right? And that video is really profound.
Donna, you watch Megan Thee Stallion?
I think she's a really good rapper. I'm not always familiar with the content. I'm not always crazy about the content, but she's an extremely talented young woman, and she's a young woman that we all watch get shot by a man, get attacked by men, get attacked by women. And, in Cobra, she talks about depression. She talks about how she thought about killing herself. Mm-hmm. And then you see her emerge like a snake, shedding that skin. And I'm like, girl, I can relate, because I had to shed some skin. Me too, right? And so I love it, but I think more of us need to understand that we don't win by defending men who harm women. Well, this choose me kind of thing, pick me kind of thing, where you want to be the one who a man loves. If we love each other enough, we can hold these men accountable. The final thing I want to say about that is the men who are doing this are broken people. Healthy people don't do this, and we've got to do something about men's mental health, because broken men will keep doing this until we help them get fixed. And so while I despise the behavior, this is somebody's son, this is somebody's brother, and there's in our society, it's breaking us in so many ways as people. And so again, and you'll hear me say this over and over today, healing to me is the most important investment we can make as a community, because this man was a broken man. He needs to be held accountable, but he harmed a woman, and I pray for both the woman and her family, and also pray that this man gets the help he needs.
Yeah.
Can I just say amen to all of what you just said? Amen to that, and it's really important. I have an appreciation for what the governor just passed, also with withholding guns from people who have been part of domestic violence. So I think that's an important thing to take toward that. But thank you. Amen to everybody. I can't add anything else.
But Cheryl, I know that you have experienced more than anybody caring for women who've come through this, because that's one of the beautiful services that COTS provides. And so when you see it so often, I know you've got to feel a special way when you see this.
And the impact that it has on kids. Yes. We don't talk about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the next generation. This domestic violence issue starts here, but it transcends generations. That's important to know.
Oh, it transcends generations.
Yes.
And it transcends brokenness. And Donna was talking about brokenness. And speaking of broken societies, the Michigan Democrats bashed Rashida Tlaib for Palestinian comments. Democratic lawmakers and officials in Michigan are rebuking remarks made by Representative Rashida Tlaib that justify an often criticized slogan popular among advocates for Palestinian rights. On Friday, Tlaib, who is the only Palestinian American member of Congress, tweeted that From the River to the Sea is an aspirational call for freedom, human rights, and peaceful coexistence, not death, destruction, or hate. My work and advocacy is always centered in justice and dignity for all people, no matter faith or ethnicity. Senate President Pro Tem Jeremy Moss, a Democrat, tweeted on Saturday, Hamas uses it as a rallying cry, and they don't simply want to displace Jews in Israel. They want Jews dead. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessa also condemned Tlaib's defense of the slogan, tweeting, at Rashida Tlaib, I have supported and defended you countless times, even when you have said the indefensible, because I believed you to be a good person whose heart was in the right place. But this is so hurtful and to so many. Please retract this cruel and hateful remark, Nessa continued. The rallying cry From the River to the Sea is popular at pro-Palestinian demonstrations in Palestine literature and refers to a desired Palestinian state that would stretch from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. It has often been criticized as both a call for violence against Israelis and a rejection of any claims of Israel's right to exist. Lawmakers in the state are now calling into question how Tlaib can represent her district's Jewish communities. Quote, it is disturbing and enraging that Jewish communities in Southfield, Franklin, Bingham Farms, Beverly Hills, and beyond are represented by someone who adopts wholesale the call for the state of Israel to be wiped from the map, necessitating the elimination of 8 million Jews. Representative Noah Arbit, a Democrat from West Bloomfield, he tweeted on Saturday. The comments were not Tlaib's only public pronouncements in the ongoing war against Israel and the Palestinian militant group Hamas. On Saturday, Tlaib accused President Joe Biden of supporting genocide against Palestinians by continuing to support Israel. There's a lot packed in here, Donna. What say you?
Let me start with this, right? I can't imagine waking up and finding out that 1,400 of my people have been killed in hate, kidnapped, beheaded, children snatched. That's terrible. That's indefensible. That's sad. And Hamas did that. Palestinian people did not do that. Hamas did that. And these are radicalized, angry people who for some reason have been in charge. There has not been an election for 20 years, so you can't say that the people of Palestine voted them in because they don't have the right to vote. They don't enjoy rights of many people in many places. So without weighing in on this conflict, because I don't ever want to do that, right? I want to say that human beings everywhere have the right to exist. And when you bomb and kill people, she is the only Palestinian person in Congress. And I have not heard any of these same people make public pronouncements saying, we care about you, we love you, we know you must be hurting, by people who are saying, you know, Israel has the right to self-defense by bombing people like her grandmother who still lives there, like family members who still lives there. Peter Amash lives in Grand Rapids area, and that's when I found out he's the first Palestinian to be elected to Congress. He said he lost half his family in all of this. And so I think we need to be understanding of the fact that human beings are on all sides, and that this is one of those things where wrong is being done on both sides. It is dehumanizing to suggest that Israeli people cannot create acts of harm. Mm-hmm. All people can, regardless of whether or not you have been victimized. It is dehumanizing to suggest that Palestinian people should be held accountable for the actions of radicalized people who are in charge. But if we want to stop this violence, I'm just wondering, where do we have diplomacy and peace and negotiations at the level where the United States is a country would stand up and say, we want to see peace on both sides, not to justify or legitimize Hamas, but to stop from creating new, even more militant people who in the wake of all of this. Because if you don't stop, Martin Luther King say, hate cannot stop hate. Mm-hmm. Violence cannot stop violence. Only love can do that. Mm-hmm. Where is the love? As relates to those comments, it is interesting to me that when people say things that are offensive to Black people, we're always told we don't know what's in their hearts. You don't know, she doesn't have a racist bone in her body. Well, we don't know what's in Rashida Tlaib's heart. What I know is that since I've known her as a public figure, She has always fought on behalf of the causes that matter to the people in our community. And that's the reason why the people on the east side of Detroit love her, because she will fight environmental injustice. She'll go toe-to-toe.
She'll fight racial injustice.
When it comes to, her saying the indefensible, I think it's very insulting and condescending for Dana Nessel to couch her comments in that way, because she said, isn't Dana Nessel the person who said that she didn't think people with penises should be able to be elected to office? She said things that many people might say are indefensible. And so I guess my thing is this: dear elected officials, I understand you're hurt, and I understand especially if you are a Jewish person, you're hurt. We had a leader of a Jewish temple synagogue killed recently. There's a lot of loss, and there is a lot of pain on all sides. But I call on everybody to remember this: that love is the greatest healer we have. And when we speak, if we speak with love, perhaps we can, start moving towards healing. People have put her in a corner all by herself, and I'm talking about Rashida Tlaib. And when you're in a corner all by yourself, you come out fighting in ways that people who are cornered fight. And I don't think that's healthy either. I think that there's some conversations that can be had. There's some love that can be expressed. I don't know enough about the meaning of that saying. I know that it's been used for many years. I don't know that it has not been used in a way that has not terrorized people, and that people don't have a right to feel terrorized by those words. I don't believe that's why she used them. But I think that it's important that people have a sit down and meet, the Democratic Party meet behind closed doors, so that we can stand as one. Because right now, you have a party that is losing legitimacy with large sections of the voting public, and a president who is running for a re-election who, by all polling results, may not be re-elected, because this division, this feeling of people being otherized and not heard and silenced and not counted has just, metastasized into a full-blown, national crisis. So I'm hopeful that we can have some closed-door conversations and stop calling. I know you're news media, and we're even kind of news media here, but stop calling us and have conversations with each other.
Love is required. And with that, we're going to take a break. We're going to be right back with the CEO of COTS Detroit, Cheryl Johnson, and EMPath CEO, Kim Janey. Keep it locked.
Founded in 2021, the Stoudemire is a membership-based community recreation and wellness center centrally located on the east side of Detroit. Membership in the Stoudemire is available on a sliding scale for up to $20 per year or 20 hours of volunteer time. The Stoudemire offers art, dance, and fitness classes, community meetings and events, resource fairs, pop-up events, the Neighborhood Tech Hub, and more. Members who are residents of the east side have access to exclusive services in the Wellness Network. Join today and live well, play well, be well. Visit ecndetroit.org.
Bridge Detroit is your news and engagement platform that is telling the stories of Detroiters rooted by community priorities. Started in 2020 by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Stephen Henderson, the newsroom has already established its footing as the go-to source for hyper-local perspectives that ask the hard questions, brings accountability, and searches out real solutions. It's free to become a member of this award-winning news organization. Visit bridgedetroit.com today to sign up to receive the news delivered right to your inbox. Bridge Detroit, by Detroiters, for Detroiters.
Welcome back to Authentically Detroit. Economic Mobility Pathways, or EMPath, is a national nonprofit dedicated to improving the lives of people in poverty. In October, they announced that one of the longest-serving members of its Economic Mobility Exchange, which is a global network of 160-plus human service organizations and government agencies, reached a new height. COTS is the first member of the exchange to be certified in the practice of mobility mentoring, EMPath's best-in-class economic mobility coaching approach. COTS has provided shelter, housing, and support to individuals and families experiencing or overcoming homelessness for over 40 years. COTS first joined EMPath's exchange network in 2015, further enhancing their ability to support hundreds of families to work toward economic self-sufficiency and create stabilized environments for a multi-generational impact on families. As members of EMPath's exchange, organizations and agencies adapt mobility mentoring, EMPath's research-backed trauma-informed coaching approach into their own programs and services to support families. Mobility mentoring has a proven track record of supporting families to climb the economic ladder. In EMPath's own programs, Mobility Mentoring has supported families to double and even triple their incomes, unlocking opportunities to access stable housing, get advanced degrees and good jobs, save money, and more. So we are so excited to have Cheryl and Kim here. Donna, you are really, really excited about this interview. When you heard about this certification, you were like, we have to get Cheryl on.
All right. Well, in 2017, ECN actually joined the Mobility Mentoring Program. And so we sent staff to be trained. Our own senior program director, Savannah Brewer, went along with
Tiara Robinson
at the time. And we had a grant from the Kresge Foundation that we hoped we were going to be able to grow. And then our program officer ended up leaving unexpectedly, and so we never got that funding back. So we are just back at the table with new funding, the funding that Rashida Tlaib helped get us from the government to $1.8 million, and we are bringing back coaching, which is based on the mobility mentoring model. So we really have to get with you, Cheryl, so we can figure out, and you, Kim, so that we can figure out how to be part of this initiative again, because this was such a powerful, this was powerful work in our very short period of time. Now, you were just starting out. You were there a little bit before us. We were there right after you, and then we left, and now you're certified. So I was so excited to see you were there.
I remember talking to you about this. Now that you're bringing this up, it certainly has been, and Kim will say this, an 18-month journey.
Yeah.
By the way, Donna, they've gotten it down to 6 months. So when you go in for certification, we took it for the team to 18 months, but now it is going to be down to 6 months.
And, before we get into it, I sit on the advisory committee for the Poverty Task Force for the state of Michigan. And I keep wanting the Poverty Task Force to look at this model as a model that the state would adopt and then fund. There was this great big initiative, the Innovation Fund, and we were in the process of applying for it. Don't ask me what happened with the software, but I was over by a couple minutes and our application couldn't go in.
Yeah.
But I really do hope that the state looks at this model and the work that you're doing, because it needs to be replicated.
I appreciate that. And on top of that, we've got to be more innovative. This old way of doing, I've been at COTS 33 years, it was transactional, you know, and that's how we got to this point. Really was over 3 decades for me. I began to see that, we're doing well with getting people in housing, but the issue of poverty is not being addressed at all. And we've got to do something innovative, something that's impactful. And by the way, that will transcend, again, generations. And certainly when I think of raising 4 kids here in Detroit, I thought about 4 areas that were important. 1, family had to be stable. 2, we needed to achieve goals in education, career development, our overall health and well-being, and then think about economic mobility. Those are the 4 or 5 things that were really important as I look at my children now, adult people in life, and should be applied to me, to anybody. And so the opportunity to, 1, go on sabbatical, to have this thought, thanks to McGregor, and let me give a shout out to them early for that sabbatical, but coming back and then connecting with EMPath and now doing the work 10 years is transformative.
Can you talk a little bit about number one, the realization of, the product being transactional, right? And the shift of consciousness to not only wanting people to get into stable housing, but the work having to touch and transcend systems to, have impact and lasting change.
Yeah. We've got to move past what I call the one-off. Me sending you to a system that hopefully you're going to get the service that you're going to get. I know nothing that has happened for you after that. And really think about walking and partnering with our families for the long haul. So that's the commitment work when we think about this particular model. And coaching means that, 1, I see you as a partner.
Yeah.
Right? It's always about a partnership.
You're gonna build a relationship.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all relational. 2 is I also see the good in you. I see what the assets that you bring to the table, and not this thing that how
Can you say that again? Because I
Yes.
think when we come into contact with folks who are living on the margins, especially folks who have had contact with homelessness, right? Who have experienced homelessness, we typically don't start with their humanity.
Absolutely.
We typically don't start with the abundance that they could bring and the assets that they're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
And so you're saying, yo, you're human. Let's build a relationship and let's build together.
But Orlando, that's a narrative, and so part of the work has to be about us as the people leading in this, changing our own narratives. And let's not get this. I always tell people,
I love this
let's not get
conversation.
this wrong to think we got it all right.
Yeah.
We don't have it all right.
We've made mistakes,
right?
and we've described
and
our
I'm
work
talking
in
about
ways.
everybody.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
we've
All of
got to
us.
change our narrative. I've had to do some really personal, hard work around my own narrative. I didn't grow up in poverty, right?
Yes.
I had a very different situation, parents who paid for my college. And so me coming into the work, I'm coming with my experience, right. to this and looking, well, why aren't people doing this? But once in the work, you understand they don't have the bootstraps to pull up. You tell them pull up the bootstraps.
Well,
They
Martin
don't
Luther
even
King said
they don't
that.
have them.
Yeah.
They don't have
That's
them,
what King
right?
said.
And so I do believe that it's important that we first do, when we do this backwards, we got to do our own narrative work first before we get into this work.
I love
Exactly.
this. Can I bring in
can
Mayor
we-
Kim in this conversation and just ask, Mayor Kim, for you to just weigh in on what Cheryl is talking about and say a little bit more about the scarcity mindset that you talked a little bit about earlier, because, one of my contentions is I think capitalism breeds that scarcity mindset. So how do we transcend capitalism in this work?
Absolutely. It truly does. And I'm not here to buck the system of capitalism, but if this is the game we are playing, and if we know that many folks who look like me, have been dealt a bad hand, what are we going to do about it? Time to throw in that hand and make sure that we're stacking the deck in a way that ensures we can be winners. And so I think, for me, this speaks to where we are as a nation, our core values as a nation. And if we're going to be okay with being one of the richest nations on the planet, and yet we have a housing crisis in Boston and Detroit and other major cities across our nation, not just our cities, our rural areas experience deep poverty. We know that there are so many crises that are compounding the issue of poverty and one's ability to truly climb that economic ladder and to be able to thrive in a way that makes sense and where they can be healthy and have all of the things that we all aspire to. Oftentimes, those who are in a position to change policy, elected officials, or those who have the resources to invest a lot of money, wonder, well, what is it that people want? What is it? People want the same thing that everybody wants. We want good, safe housing that we can afford to live in, great schools for our kids, wonderful, vibrant communities filled with play space and green spaces everywhere. These are not mysteries. People want to be able to live out the American dream. What we've all been told is the promise of living in this country. But for too many of us, we know it's a nightmare. And so at EMPath, which stands for Economic Mobility Pathways, we have been engaged in this work for a number of years. In fact, we are gearing up for some major anniversary milestones that we are celebrating, including our bicentennial, our 200 years. This breakthrough approach, though, is still fairly new. So almost 15 years ago, the organization developed a breakthrough coaching model that is informed by science and backed by evidence that really centers the person who is experiencing deep poverty. So we've heard our congressional leaders and other electeds talk about those who are closest to the pain being part of the solution, and that they need to drive those policy decisions. And so our coaching approach is going to center the participant as an active player in their own lives. One, they're the expert. They know what they need. They know what they aspire to and where they hope to go in life. And for us, it is about making sure that we're illuminating a path forward, that we're helping to strategize around goals that participants are identifying for themselves, and how to remove those barriers when they come up. So it is very much focused on this individual participant looking at different areas of their life. So core to mobility mentoring, which is our breakthrough model, is this bridge to self-sufficiency. And on the bridge, there are 5 pillars. So you look at family stability, we look at career, we look at education and training, we're looking at well-being, and of course, finances. And wherever someone is on one of those pillars, maybe family stability isn't the highest for them because maybe they're in one of our shelter units with us. And so they're just kind of getting to a place of being more stable. But the good news is they've just secured a new job. And so on the career side, maybe they're making some progress there. Wherever they are on this bridge, our coaches, our mentors are going to meet them where they are, build that trusting relationship, and help them live out their wildest dreams, which is what we all want and deserve, living in one of the greatest countries on the planet. But we haven't always lived up to that. And so I'm really excited for these major milestones that we're celebrating and how we utilize them to further this work. I'm super excited to partner with Cheryl and for the incredible work that COTS is doing. They have been with us with our exchange now as one of the founding members, and our exchange is almost 10 years old. So they have been with us from that very beginning there, and to be our first certified organization, we couldn't be more thrilled and excited for the work that they are doing in Detroit and beyond, and to be in partnership with them, because we know that some of the issues that we're seeing here in Boston are not unique to Boston. There are challenges all over our country, particularly as folks are still climbing out of the pandemic and settling into a new normal. We know that that pandemic had dire consequences, life and death consequences for poor communities of color all across our nation. And this is our opportunity to reset and create a new normal where we can actually have vibrant, thriving communities for all.
Thanks. I have some policy questions to ask. So my organization, Eastside Community Network, was founded as Warren County Development Coalition. We're almost celebrating our 40th year in next year we'll be celebrating our 40th anniversary. And I worked for the organization in 1993, hired as the director for the Partnership for Economic Independence. And the purpose of PEI, we called it, the purpose of PEI was to help women who were low income, particularly those who were living in a nearby public housing complex, exit poverty through coaching. So we had family coaches and we trained them as paraprofessionals. We had a family dinner club. We were not nearly as structured as what you have here, which is why I was so excited to read about the Bridges for Self-Sufficiency, because it really made sense. Mobility mentoring really made sense in light of this experience when we tried to bring that model back when I returned to the organization in 2016. But in 1993, when PEI was formed, many of our residents lived in public housing, which is almost non-existent today. Most of them were receiving welfare benefits, cash benefits from welfare. I think somewhere around 90% of people who qualify for cash benefits received them in 1993, compared to about 12% today. And access to housing that is affordable to really low-income people also has disappeared. And so it seems as though upper mobility has stalled across the nation and in our community, and that we need to do more to invest in some public policy to help facilitate some of the changes that we want to see, because sometimes it's just the absolute lack of housing. Like there's just a report today that Metro Detroit housing prices have risen again and scarcity is increasing. So I'm wondering what kind of public policy we need to advocate for that will help assist with this initiative.
Excellent question. So the coaching work, which I'm very proud of, and it kind of gives that power to the individual and that agency to the individual, love it. But we also need systems change work. The reason why so many individuals are experiencing poverty are because of policy decisions that were passed on that were meant to benefit a select group of individuals at the expense of all others. And that's what we're dealing with now. We're dealing with the aftermath of that. There's been a reckoning around, is this right? Should we do something about it? More people run for office so that we can create better policies and push back on what has been detrimental to our communities. And so I would agree, yes, we need policy. We need it at the municipal level, at the county level, at the state level, and at the federal level. And so for listeners, if there are people who are listening who are thinking about running for public office, great. If there are people who are thinking that they want to make a difference through, working in the nonprofit space, wonderful. And all of it, though, the systems change work, whether that's happening at the State House or at the Capitol in D.C. or at a local city hall, we need to have changes put in place that are going to help people not just manage poverty, because oftentimes the good intentions that come from this work are things that just help people manage being poor as opposed to helping them escape poverty.
Okay, well, let's stop right there for a second. We're going to take a quick break, and this is the last break of the show. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Have you always dreamed of being on the airwaves? Well, the Detroit Eastside Engaged Podcast Network, or DEEP for short, is here to make that dream a reality. Located inside the Stoudemire, the DEEP Network offers studio space and production staff to help get your podcast idea off the ground. Doesn't take a whole lot of work to get started. Just visit the Authentically Detroit page at ecn-detroit.org or call Sarah at 313-948-0344.
Founded in 2021, the Stoudemire is a membership-based community recreation and wellness center centrally located on the east side of Detroit. Membership in the Stoudemire is available on a sliding scale for up to $20 per year or 20 hours of volunteer time. The Stoudemire offers art, dance, and fitness classes, community meetings and events, resource fairs, pop-up events, the Neighborhood Tech Hub, and more. Members who are residents of the east side have access to exclusive services in the Wellness Network. Join today and live well, play well, be well. Visit ecndetroit.org.
And we're back with COTS and with the EMPath. I'm trying to do Orlando's job, and I need a script. He is so good at this. He makes it seem easy, but do not try this yourself at home, people, because it's not easy. But no, I wanted to just get into and really lift up something that Cheryl talked about, because I think it's so important. And it also connects to what you said, Kim, this whole idea of helping people manage poverty as opposed to exit poverty, and lifting people out of poverty. So much of that is connected to the way we see people, right?
Yep.
We put people in a caste. Well, those are poor people, and therefore they don't care about having a home. They don't care about their children's education. They don't care about this. And we put all of these narratives, frame all of these narratives. Most of us have never been there, right? So we're just looking out, and many of us have also internalized anti-Blackness. These mindsets around what the Black community, the welfare queen mentality.
If we're being honest,
we do, because I hear our people say this about our people all of the time.
Absolutely.
And they're not bad people putting our own people down, but certainly their thinking is really flawed. So how do you begin to change that? I want to talk to you about how you change that, because you talked about self-reflection.
Yeah.
But that's not easy, is it?
Yeah, no. It is called what I call daily reckoning, because that's the truth. From the moment I leave out my door, my narrative starts. It's starting, right? And I've had to have these moments where I've had to pause and question, why did I think that about that guy? Why did I just have that reaction, right? Mm-hmm. So we only see people in part. We never see the whole. And so that's where the narrative shift happens. It's when we actually see the whole. I'm going to tell a really quick story, because this is how narrative works out. I decided this year I'm going to do something brave. I'm going to learn how to swim. You guys, I
Ooh,
not how to
Lord.
swim. I know. So
No, I don't know either. So that's a great
so
feat.
look,
That's
I joined the Y. And second day, they say, okay, we're going to jump in 9 feet of water. I said, no, I'm not. Yes, you are. And so I jump in. I survive. I come back up, right? Next time we come, there's a young lady so I started going to Vincente's every Saturday to have a glass of wine just to celebrate my victory. Next time we go in, there is a young black man who is a lifeguard who's standing a few lanes over. The young lady says, jump in the water. And she says, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. This goes on for 5 minutes. The young black guy jumps in the water and he just looks up at her and she doesn't move. He comes out of the water, says nothing, grabs her hand, and they jump in together. Okay, that's the end of that story. So I go to Vincente's. I'm chilling, crossing my legs. I'm having this wine, and I'm looking down the street, watching people, thinking what I want to think, right? So I see a guy. He's hooded up. He's eating fries like there's no tomorrow. And I have this thought about this guy. I'm like, geez, why is he doing that? He comes closer. Now, I've already have created a whole story about him. He comes closer. I look, and I recognize it's the guy from the Y. Right?
Oh, wow.
And inside of me, I literally said this. I saw a part of him, but I've had the privilege to see another wholeness of him. And I drew a story only on that part. But when I brought the full picture of who this person is, my narrative changed. I went to Baltimore and New York and literally told the story on stage to tell people this is how our narrative, it happens like that. Well, I don't see a piece of you. Oh, you got this. And we make a story. I'm learning about the power, one, of narrative, but also how to help our families elevate their voices. Because I don't think we have a right, nor should we be telling their story. Right?
That's literally my mission. But
so we have seniors who work for us. They come in through the Urban League and they are on what is called training, and then eventually we end up hiring them. Mm-hmm. Beautiful women who sit at our front desk. And so one of them just came and I don't know how we started talking. She started telling me how her family came to Detroit. Mm-hmm. And she's telling me her Detroit story, and I became so mesmerized. I couldn't stop talking to her. So we talked for an hour, and she was telling me about her grandfather making peach brandy, and her aunt was a seamstress, and she made money, and how her family came up all at once. And so I started asking other people, and I think I really just wanted to do some storytelling and ask people their stories. A lot of times we don't find out enough about what happened to people. And one thing I found, and it kind of goes back to what you're saying, is people are really interesting.
Yes.
Like you don't just have to watch TV or, reality TV. Sometimes just letting people tell you about themselves can be enriching in so many ways. I would love to work with you on something where we just have people in our community telling their stories, because that's again, we dehumanize people. We can't oppress people unless we dehumanize them. The first thing we do is take away a piece of their humanity so that they're not like us and we don't have to feel bad about what we're doing. But when we have to look at them as full human beings, we want more for them. So I would love to, as part of our initiative, do that, because I think that is important, and it's a narrative shift that has to happen on an individual level and then at a community level. But my question for you is also, how do you get your staff to engage in that narrative shift? Because you aren't the coach, you aren't the mentor. Right.
So I love this because we are doing this right now, and I'm going to do a paper on this when we're done. So we're actually starting with our board. Like, we do narrative from the top, because that's the governing group, right? And if your governing group is working from a faulty, harmful narrative, then it filters down. I don't care who the CEO is or who the people that are working are. It's going to have a major impact on what your outcomes should be or what you're trying to get to. And so our work now for the entire year, going all the way to June of 24, is working every board meeting around narratives. And I'm telling you, to hear the generative conversations that are coming from board members that are now faced with their own personal narratives, and like, how do I change that? How do I think differently? How do I be a better person in the world? And people really wanting and desiring that. So we've done that, but we've also created a booklet. I'm going to share it with you, Donna.
Please.
About choices. And this is all about narrative work through Ideas 42 that came in, that was funded by Kresge, to actually help us to shift the narratives of our staff who are working with our families. That's really important because, again, I'm telling you, we're doing all this backwards. We're doing the work but not shifting the narrative, which now we aren't getting the outcomes that we want to see.
Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you.
I
want to see it. I want to see it. I want to look at it. I think the idea of changing the minds of your governing board. I just want to say something real quickly. Years ago, I was a vice president for programs at Big Brothers Big Sisters of Metropolitan Detroit. And this is in 1997. I ended up getting a divorce from my first husband. And when I got my divorce, I realized that I was one of the only single mothers in the organization, in an organization designed to help single mothers. There was not a single mother on our board of directors, no Black single mothers on our board of directors, and the narratives they had were really flawed. And that's when I realized I couldn't work there anymore, because it was hard for me to work in an organization where I felt like the concept of who these women were was flawed. We looked at them as bad parents or inadequate rather than wonderful women who were doing a hard job all by themselves. But I found out how hard it was to be a single mother when I had 3 children who were, how old were they, 7 and under? That was hard work. And it really, made me a lot more conscious of how I work in the community. But educating your board is really, really hard work. At Big Brothers Big Sisters, I didn't have the power to make them see themselves, so I left. You, of course, have that influence. I know your board loves you, but how do you get them to do that kind of soul searching and really challenge themselves? This is not their day job. How do you get them to do it?
Well, one is a whole thing of accountability. I think we got to talk about that. And really, at this point in my life, man, I turned 63. It's like I can do whatever now. I honestly feel that, like the big girl panties. When
I turned 60, I started giving myself permission. I turned 60 on September 19th, and I had permission for everything. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and so the truth is, I find a very different voice at this very stage in my life of like there is no turning back, and really holding people accountable, and not being afraid to ask the hard questions, and whatever the answer is not the answer, and saying that's not the, let's go deeper. And the deeper, when you ask a question over and over and over again, because we all say something that is something, but the answer is much deeper. I think our board is at a place where we can do that. And with me being, as they call it, a seasoned person there, they're okay with that and can really respond to very hard questions. I love conversations.
I got to tell you that I absolutely love that, because as a journalist, as a person who loves the written word, narrative to me is everything, right? And I always say that the griot is urgent today, right? Narrative has the ability to proliferate into our subconscious and influence how we show up in the world and how we show up amongst each other. Narrative has the ability to influence our perception of a people, of a person, that will give us permission to shoot people dead in the street, or to hold our knee down on people's necks, or to spur mass casualties around the world, right? Because we've digested certain narratives. And so for you to start really at an organizational level from the top, not just your C-suite, but the board on down, right, is commendable. It's why I do the work that I do every single day, And so that just made me happy. I think we got to go. We got to go. We got literally 2 minutes left. I want to thank Cheryl and Mayor Kim for joining us on Authentically Detroit today. Oh my goodness, what a powerful and enriching discussion. It is time for shout outs. Let's start with Mayor Kim. Mayor Kim, you got any shout outs?
Listen, I just want to shout out the folks in Detroit doing this good work. I just have been so inspired on this call. So I want to shout out Cheryl and the COTS team.
Awesome. Cheryl, you got any shout outs?
I have to shout out. It's a poor frog that doesn't praise his own pond. Shout out to COTS team. COTS team.
I love that. Somebody also said it's a sad dog that won't wag his own tail. Donna, you have any shout outs?
I do. I'm really prepared today.
Okay, great.
First of all, I don't ever do this, but I want to shout out Cheryl. Yeah. Not because of COTS, but because she has been such a change agent in the community and has uplifted Black women for so long, informing the circle and reaching out to me at a time which you don't know I was really at a low. And you really lifted me. And so I really want to thank you for honoring me and recognizing my leadership back in the day. I want to, that means I have to come back to the circle, right?
That's right.
But you have it on Thursday evenings. Anyway, now I want to shout out Naomi Davis from Blacks and Green. She was on a panel. She was a keynote speaker last week, and she just really, really was beautiful and wonderful. We need to have her back in the community. She talked about Grannynomics, and she's written books, and just an amazing woman who's done a 1 mile village. So shout out to her. I want to shout out to Anika Goss for her equity conference, also for her appointment to the Federal Home Loan Bank of Indianapolis, and also for having the courage to put me on a panel at her equity conference with a couple of folks, knowing that I'm going to say some things, but she put me there anyway. Love you, Anika. And then finally to Dr. Rose Moulton from the Bloom Transformation Center, who really helped to transform our office in 1 half-day retreat. We will have her back. We're going to bring her to the community. It's hard for me to use. If there were all of the superlatives in the world and I strung them all together, that would be Rose. We have senior citizens who walked away literally saying, I can walk with unassisted now after this session. It brought us together. We had people in tears talking about their lives, but it was in a very healing and connected way where we all got to see each other in ways we've never seen each other before. And after all of the consultants we've paid to do that, she did that. So I don't want her to have so much business that she doesn't have time for us. But honestly, if you're looking for somebody to bring a healing response, Rose is the one.
I would like to shout out 2 young Black men who are also my clothiers, Daryl and Coven Humes, who just opened a new brick and mortar inside of the Fisher Building, Mature. They were in the Fisher Building before, but they opened a new storefront that's bigger, better, and just super amazing. 2 young Black brothers doing it and doing it well. And they dress me whenever I need them to. So I wanted to make sure that I shouted them out because I'm really, really proud of the work that they've been able to do. And shout out to shout out to anybody who is trying to tell the story of what's happening between the Israel and Hamas conflict with context, with nuance, and with respect right now, because there are so many bad takes that I'm seeing. And so if you are doing the work and doing the research and doing the reporting and doing it in a fair and in just way, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, that's going to do it for Authentically Detroit. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time.